Alright, so the review, you'll have a copy of it. Number 1, you end up with x plus 1 over x squared minus 64 and 3x over x squared plus 16x plus 64. In order to find my least common denominator, I need to factor them. This is a difference of squares problem, x minus 8, x plus 8. This is a perfect square, x plus 8, and x plus 8. So you have two of them over here. So when I find the least common denominator, I need to look and say, okay, I need an x minus 8, and I need an x plus 8. But this guy, so that takes care of that, that takes care of that. And these guys share this in common. But this guy has a second one. So remember I told you, take the one with the biggest power. So I actually need two of them. Because this is missing an x. This will need an x plus 8 in order to match up so that they have 1, 2. And this will need an x minus 8. And that will make them have common denominators. Number 2. X minus 3, or x over 3 minus 2y over 9 plus 4x over 12. This is not an equation, this is an expression. So we cannot just drop the denominator like we've discussed in equations once they get common ones. We have to make them have common ones, and then we combine them. Eventually we want our answer to just have one fraction. So what we do is we say the least common denominator is going to be 36, so we times this by 12, times that by 4, times that by 3, and when I multiply this, I get 12, 4, 3, end up on the top, I get 12x over 36, minus 8y over 36, and then plus 12x over 36. And then that, this can combine with this. Remember, keep the sign that's in front of it. I have 12x, I'm adding 12 more x, so I get 24x for total. This subtraction sign stays only with this guy, so it's minus 8y over 36. If all three of them have something in common, then I can cancel out what they all three, 1, 2, 3 have in common. They all have a 4 in common. And so this becomes a 6, this becomes a 2, this becomes a 9. So my final answer is 6x minus 2y over 9. And you need to be able to do that for your test tomorrow. Must reduce those fractions. Number 3. Number 3 is 12x squared over 5z divided by 18x yz over 25y squared. You must look for restrictions first. So I look for my restrictions. Y and z cannot equal 0 so far. And so then I keep change flip, 12x squared 5z times 25y squared over 18xy and z. Are there any new restrictions? Yep, x just went up on the bottom, so now I need to include x, comma y, and comma z cannot equal 0. Now I look for anything in the top or anything in the bottom that have something in common. This 5 and 25 has a 5 in common, so this becomes a 1. That becomes a 5. I have an x, 2 x's here. I have 1 x down here, so this x can completely go away. I get rid of one of these, so I have 1 left. There's a y here, squared. There's 2 of them. There's 1 y here. I get rid of this 1, but that means I only get rid of 1, so I have 1 left up there. No z's in common. This 18 and this 12 have something in common. What goes into both of them is 6, and you get 2, and you get 3. And then when I multiply across, you should get the answer. 2 times 5 is 10. X times y is xy over 3 times z is 3z squared. Alright, number 4, I'm going to do x squared plus 3x minus 10 over 8x squared times 6x over 2x minus 4. First thing I need to do is factor these guys. This becomes an x, different signs, bigger one's positive. Two numbers that multiply to 10 but get me to 3. 5 goes with the positive, 2 goes here. And factor this, this becomes 2x minus 2. X minus 2's go away. This x and this x can cancel out, but I have 1 left down here. This 8 and this 4 can cancel out. 2 goes into both, or sorry, 6 can cancel out. 4 goes into this and goes into this 3 times. And then you are finally left with an answer of 3x plus 5 over 2 times 4 is 8, and you have that x left over, don't forget that. And this x cannot cancel out with this x. Remember, that's at inside parentheses. Can't cancel that out. So that would be my final answer, and I need restrictions. I should have done those before. X cannot equal, only thing in my denominator is x cannot equal 0, or x cannot equal positive 2. So make sure you put those restrictions down. Alright, 5. X minus 2 over x squared minus 8x plus 15 plus x over x squared plus 25. Well, in order to add these guys together, since this is addition, you need to worry about common denominators first. And then also restrictions too. So x minus 2 over, this becomes x, same signs, both negative. Two numbers that multiply 5 and 3. And then this is a minus 25, sorry about that. Plus, this is x, x plus 5, x minus 5. Alright, so this is one of my longer ones, so I realize that this needs to, what do they have in common? They have an x minus 5 in common. But this has an x plus 5 in common, so this is missing an x plus 5, so I have to multiply by x plus 5 on both top and bottom. And this over here is missing an x minus 3, so I have to multiply that. So keep going along. Distribute this thing out right here, this times this times that, and when I do that I get x squared minus 2x, but I'm going to add 5x, so I'm going to get a plus 3x minus 10. And then that's over the whole thing that I had before. X plus 5, x minus 5, x minus 3. And I'm going to add that, and then this becomes x squared minus 3x over that whole same thing. X plus 5, x minus 5, x minus 3, and there we go. Okay, now I'm going to, once I have common denominators, I cannot drop the denominator like we did before because this is not an equation. I'm just simplifying this. There's no equals something over here. There's not that. So I have to just add my tops. If I have an x squared and I add x squared, it becomes 2x squared. And again, be careful if this is a subtraction sign. We talked a lot about that because you have to change the signs of everything behind it then. It's a plus sign, so we're good, but be careful on the test. If you have a plus 3x and you add a negative 3x, those guys are going to cancel each other out. And then negative 10 has nothing to combine with, so it becomes like that. And then that's over x plus 5, x minus 5, x minus 3. And again, I should have put my restrictions where x cannot equal positive or negative 5 or positive 3. That's my final answer. Yes, I will be looking for restrictions. You will lose points, but if you lose points, you lose 1 or 2 points on each question, you're just taking your test score down. 1 over x minus 3 equals 2 over x squared minus 6x plus 9. You don't need to necessarily factor this to actually use it, you need to factor it so that you can set restrictions. So I factor this and I realize that it is x minus 3 squared. So I didn't change any restrictions. The only restriction I have in this one is x cannot equal 3. So I kind of remember that. Now I don't use this factor. I'm just going to cross multiply. And the reason I'm not going to use that factor is because I'm multiplying by 1. And when I multiply by 1, I just get all this out. So on one side, I get x squared minus 6x plus 9 equals, distribute that, 2x minus 3. Get everything to one side. If it was me, I'm going to bring everything over to this side. So I minus 2x plus 3 plus 3. And you should end up with x squared minus 8x plus 12 equals 0. Factor this, x plus, minus, same signs, both negative, minus 6, x minus 2 equals 0. That means x equals 6 or 2. Sorry, I know you guys don't like it when I do the video. I wish I could go back and erase it much easier. Sorry, I checked my work. I see where I made a mistake. Again, if I would have plugged those numbers in like I'm supposed to be doing, especially on the equations, you have to check your answers. And that's the reason why. I would have seen where I went wrong. This stupid thing. I said distribute, but I didn't do it in my brain because I'm doing it so fast. So 2x, and then this time this is a negative 6, which then when I subtract, I end up with minus 2 plus 6. So then this should have been x squared minus 8x plus 15 equals 0. Sorry about that. And then when I factor it, it becomes x minus 3, x minus 5 equals 0, x equals 3 or 5. But I look back at my restriction, and I know it's not allowed to be 3, so I cross that one off, so it's just x equals 5. And you should plug that back in to your original equation up here. You take a 5, you put it in here, you take a 5, put it in here, put it in here, and you simplify and make sure that the left side is equivalent to the right side. For purpose of time, I'm not going to do that. All right, last one. Oh, 2 more, sorry. 3 over x minus 1 over 2x equals 10 over x squared. Okay, I'm going to multiply by the least common denominator. The least common denominator is going to be x. I need a 2, and I need 2 x's now because I remember I have to take the biggest part, so I need x squared. And so what I multiply by is I multiply this by 2x squared, I multiply this by 2x squared, and I multiply this by 2x squared. And when I do that, one of these x's cancels out, so all I have to multiply the 3 by is a 2x. This at 2 and an x cancel out, so I multiply just by an x. The x squared cancels out, so all I have to do is multiply it by a 2, and when I do that I get 6x minus x equals 20. Combine like terms, 5x equals 20, divide by 5, x equals 4. Again, if I look back, and I should have done this before I did any of the canceling out, this was x, this was 2x, this was x squared. I realized that x is not allowed to equal 0 is my only restriction. So that doesn't, that's not part of my restriction, so I should plug it back into my original equation and make sure that it's working. All right, so I'm going to just do the setup for this question. I'm not going to read the problem. So because Abby can clean their apartment in 3 hours, that means her rate is 1/3, because in an hour she gets 1/3 of the apartment clean. Charlie, his rate is 1/5. And what happens is, remember, distance equals rate times time. Distance equals rate times time. But that can also be like your rate of cleaning by how much time you spend can tell you how much you get cleaned. So this is their rate. The question is asking how long would it take them. So that's my time. So that's where my x goes in. So it's 1/3 times x. plus 1/5 times x, and that should equal one room being cleaned. And when you do that, you get x over 3 plus x over 5 equals 1, and then this turns into the other problem that we've had so far. So my least common denominator is 15, so I multiply everything by 15, and that will cancel out my denominators. This becomes a 5 left over, this becomes a 3 left over, that becomes a 15 left over because there's a 1, so I get 5x plus 3x, and that's going to equal 15, and so you get 8x equals 15, and it looks like it's going to take, so divide by 8, you're going to get x equals just over almost 2. And the reason I just need that is because if I look at my answers, it says between 1 and 2 hours, so B is the correct answer. Alright, get ready for that test tomorrow, and then we'll get moving on to Chapter 9.